I build little model rooms and I put them in big tanks of water. I really like approaching problems by breaking them down into something very simple and then really understanding that quite simple problem and then building back up from there. I kind of like to think of myself as an experimentalist who thinks like a mathematician. I'm investigating what happens when you have wind and buoyancy sources, like heat sources, inside a room. Like, what effect does that have on the ventilation rate? We're interested because we want to know how outdoor pollution sources will kind of make their way indoors when you have natural ventilated spaces. So natural ventilation is when you bring in air from outside indoors without using kind of some mechanical means, like without using a fan or a big ventilated system. Like, cooling buildings takes up a lot of energy. If you can do it without having to use expensive, energy-hungry ventilating systems, that would be great for our energy usage. But that only works if the air outside isn't too polluted. Then leading on from that, how do you design cities such that the air is not polluted enough, is sufficiently unpolluted, that you can use natural ventilation as a way of cooling buildings. So the experiments I'm going to do as part of Magic are looking at what happens when you have a model room, you have a heated floor, and then you put it in a water tunnel that simulates wind. And the idea is that we'll be able to measure the kind of flow regimes you see, like what sort of flow patterns you see in the box, and also like the effect of combining these two forces, like combining wind effects with buoyancy effects. The room we're interested in, so the room that field measurements are going to be made in, has 2 windows on one side and 1 window on the other, and also it has a skylight. And something we're very interested in is how does the ventilation rate change when you open these windows in different combinations? What is the best setup for getting the best ventilation and the most comfortable room? I'm building my experiment at the moment. But this is an experiment in the lab to sort of give you an example. So we've got this plume, which has got a source at the top, and it's sinking down through the box into this layer of dense fluid, which is filling up the bottom half of the box. And then the fluid from the dense layer is being pulled out by this second pump, much like a mechanically ventilated room would if it was drawing hot air from the top of the room. And the thing I'm interested in is how pollution outside rooms might affect the interior. And I investigate this by measuring the ventilation rate of rooms when they're affected by heat sources inside and by wind outside.